Hello, it's Kris. I've got a yin practice for you today. So for this yin class, you need a blanket, a couple of blocks, and a bolster. If you don't have yoga blocks, you can use a thick textbook. If you don't have a bolster, a couch cushion works, and just a standard blanket. So I'm going to just slide this out of the way, and we're going to get ourselves ready. So I have this bolster on a block to make it a little bit of an incline. And I want you to just bring your lower back right up and bring the soles of your feet together. And we're going to slide the blocks underneath the knees. So this is just a bow and angle pose, and it's kind of loose. And I just want to start to open up the hips and start to relax. So then you can just recline back into that bolster. But I'm going to read a poem from Don Folds' Prayers to the Infinite. And this one's called Century. Here, right now, bring your mind to this place and this time. Invite it in, even if it resists, to sit and witness what it is to be alive. Let there be no ulterior motive in this moment but to be. Rest on the waves of the breath and choose to experience all of it. Let the thoughts float through and leave again as the mind slowly settles like snow inside a shaking paperweight. This is all there is here, right here and now. So just recline onto your bolster. Let the arms open up. Let the shoulders open up. Feel that openness right in the heart area. We're going to settle in and focus in on the breath. We're going to draw that breath into the belly and really see if we can soften. Feel the face soften. See if you can just find any sort of resistance in the body. And just focus your breath to that part of the body. may find that your body opens up and invites you to go deeper into the pose. And feel free to bring the heels a little closer to the groin area to make the bow negative pose a little more intense. With the next breath, we're going to draw the knees together. And we're going to walk our feet out to the edges of the mat. And we're going to just let that right knee come down to the left ankle. Just notice how that feels. Feel the stretch of the side body. Feel a little bit of this tension in the hips. And then come back up and do the other side. We're just starting to loosen up our body and loosen up the hips. And one side may feel a little tighter than the other, and that's perfectly normal. Try and time your movements with the breath, so as you inhale, bring the knees to center, and then as you exhale, drop the other knee to the opposite angle. And just notice how that movement with the breath is soothing. With the next breath, we're going to go ahead and make our way to our side. Choose whichever side works best for your practice. And just pause there a moment. Just sort of settling in. Just noticing the hips on both sides. And we ease out of the pose. We're going to make our way to a tabletop pose. So if you choose, you can use your blanket. And let's place it on the mat to pad the knees. Have your blocks nearby in case you need them. And we can go ahead and move this bolster behind us. So we want our fingertips spread. We want our wrists directly underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. We're going to draw that belly to the spine up towards the ceiling as we tuck the chin on our exhale. And then on the inhale, we're going to lift the chin, lift the tail. Exhale, this is our angry cat pose. And inhale, our cow pose. And just see if you can time that breath with the movement. And see if you can really accentuate each section of the spine. Just noticing how that breath is affecting the spine. Cycle through the breath 2 more times. hips towards the heels, coming into a child's pose. Now with child's pose, you can choose whichever variation of the pose that works for you. The knees together or the knees apart, whichever works. I'm doing the modified child's pose because I have a knee injury, so I can't really sink all the way down to bringing my hips to the heels, but I get as close as I'm comfortable. The next breath, let's walk the fingertips over to the left and really find that space, that opening on the right side of the body. We're breathing into the right hip, the right lungs. Just noticing that space. We're going to just take a moment and open up the side body. Next breath, move the hands to center, find tabletop, and circle through cat and cow. And you may want to add some additional dynamic movement to your practice. And you can shift forward and back. Sometimes making circles with the hips helps. Or just looking over the shoulder. On the inhale, come to center. On the exhale, look over the shoulder. So choose to move in a manner that is suitable for your practice today. And then cycle through 2 more breaths. We'll meet in a neutral spine. We're going to sink into a child's pose, choosing the variation of child that works best for your practice. And then we're going to walk the fingertips over to the right. And breathe into the left side of the body. And just notice a little bit of that stretch from the hip to the shoulder to the fingertips on that left side. Walk the fingertips back to center. Make your way to that tabletop pose. And cycle through cat and cow, selecting a variation that works best for today's practice. Meeting in a neutral spine, we're going to prepare ourselves for the next pose. So you want to make sure that your blanket is spread out wider than your mat. And we're going to take the bolster, place it on your mat with the short end lining up with the short end of the mat. And we're going to bring our upper body on top of the bolster. So we're going into what is known as a supported frog pose. So the more of your upper body on the bolster, the easier the pose is. If you'd like to take the pose deeper, you can come out of the pose, slide the bolster up a little bit, and that'll make the pose a little deeper. You're affected more by gravity, opening up the hips. So the nice factor about the supported frog pose is it opens up the hips, just uses gravity to gradually open up the hips and lets you settle in. If you'd like, you can go ahead, place your forehead on a block and just settle into this pose. We hold this pose for several minutes because when we're working on the hips, we like to give the body time to really begin to just unravel and get into that connective tissue. And sometimes your body kind of gives you a little bit of an opening. Take the pose a little deeper, feel free to make the adjustment. Looking in, we want to make sure that there's intensity in the pose as we're holding it, but no pain, so that you feel that edge, that, where there's a little bit of intensity. We want to make sure there's no pain. And then we hold that pose for 3 to 5 minutes. Place your hands on either side of the bolster. Gingerly move out of the pose. I like to straighten my legs and then sink back into a child's pose. Just notice how the hips feel. Just be aware of what works best in your practice today. Slide the blanket out of your way. We're going to make our weights to our bellies, coming all the way down onto the mat. Cross the hands one on top of the other. Forehead on top of the hands. Just sort of let yourself sink into the floor. Feel your body connect with the earth. And just notice how you feel. Draw the legs together and feel like you can press all 10 toenails into the floor. So you're pressing the tops of those feet into the floor. That generates energy from the arches of the feet into the legs. Keep all that energy as it goes up the legs into the hip girdle. Then slide the shoulder blades onto your back. And bring those elbows underneath the shoulders. We're going into the Sphinx pose. So it's a majestic pose. Our eyes should be looking at our thumbs to protect the cervical spine. And we're really just opening up a little bit. We're not crunching into that lower back, but we're opening ourselves up. And just notice how this feels. We're taking that breath and our awareness to the lower back. With yin, we hold these poses for that 3 to 5 minute time in order to get into that connective tissue and into the joints to really generate some pressure that helps make the connective tissue pliable. So we hold, and it's kind of like if we thought about saltwater taffy. By applying that pressure, it generates a little bit of heat. And it opens that up, gives us a little bit of space to make it pliable. Now you can stay right here if you'd like, or if you'd like to challenge yourself, you can slide the fingertips forward a few inches, press the palms into the floor, lift those elbows, and come into a deeper back bend. I'm just going to press up a little bit, noticing, but I'm still pressing the tops of my feet into the floor, so I'm generating energy in the legs, which helps to provide space in that lower back. If I find that it's too much intensity, I can move my feet apart a little bit. This is called seal pose. So it is a deeper back bend, but by taking the legs apart just a little bit, that takes some of the tension off that lower back. As you exhale, bring hands down, forehead on top of the hands, and just pause a moment, letting the body relax into the mat. Let's turn our head to the right, slide that right knee up. This just helps to decompress the spine. And you're just going to notice how it feels on the right side compared to the left side. Release that right leg, turn the head to center. Just pause, noticing the right and the left side. Turn the head to the left, slide that left knee up to decompress the spine on the opposite side. With the next breath, release that left leg, turn the head to center. We're going to make our way to our backs. So find yourself in the center of the mat. I'm going to go ahead and cross my left leg over top of my right leg. And then I'm going to bring, you can use a strap or just grab your pant leg as I'm doing. This is called shoelace pose, and this is the inward rotation of the hips. So we're just going to hold this for a few moments. This is really great, another pose for the hips. We're just going to notice how we feel. You can also use a strap around your lower, the right leg. Makes it a little easier. And then when you're ready, let's lower the legs down. Keep the legs crossed. We're going to go ahead and shift the hips over to the right, and we're going to let the knees go over to the left. I'm not going to bring them all the way down to the floor. I really want to have my right shoulder firmly into the ground. And I want to extend my right arm out to the side in T position and look over that right shoulder. So it's not about getting my knees down to the ground. It's more about having that stretch from the hip to the shoulder. I'm looking for that space there, that opening like when we were doing the child's pose in the beginning of class. The idea is just to find that opening in the side body. And as you hold the pose, you may find that you can sink a little deeper. And they call this, when your legs are twisted like this, twisted root. It's just a way to get an opening. The weight of my left ankle on top of the right knee kind of gives a little more pressure, so I have more of an opening down that right side of my body. Draw the knees to center. Unhook that left leg from the right leg. And I'm just going to go back to that movement from the beginning of class where I just bring that opposite knee to the ankle and just getting that stretch and that movement in the hips. Just noticing how that feels and just going with that. Then take that right leg on top of the left leg. Bring the knees up towards your chest. And come into shoelace on the opposite side. And you may have a little more flexibility one way versus the other, and that's perfectly normal. We have little idiosyncrasies with our bodies. Just acknowledge it. And don't kind of give it a label as being good or bad. It's just how the right side of my body is compared to my left side. And then as you're holding the pose, you may find you can go a little deeper. And when you're ready, release the legs to the ground. We're going to go ahead and shift the hips over to the left side. I have my bolster over here on the right. And I'm just going to bring the knees down, extend that left arm, and look over that left shoulder. So I'm really focused in on this shoulder being firmly on the ground, so I have that opening coming. And the weight of my right leg on my left is just causing this opening all down the side and even down into my leg. I'm just going to hold this pose for a few moments, breathe into that space, and just notice. And since I'm a little more open on this side than I am on the other side, I'm going to actually move the bolster out of my way. Let's see if I can come down. And the reason we use so many props in a yin practice is we're really using these props to get us into the position so we can hold it for a few moments to really get into that connective tissue to make it pliable. And subtle adjustments during the practice just make so we can hold that position. Then bring the knees to the center. And you may want to bring the knees up to your chest. Hug the knees into the heart. And just rock from side to side. Note and see how it feels on the right side and the left side, and massaging that lower back. I'm going to release the soles of my feet to the floor. And I'm going to bring those heels as close to my bottom as I'm comfortable. I'm going to press the heels into the floor, lift the hips, and come into a supported bridge pose, sliding that block underneath my lower back. So this is a great pose to kind of reset the hips from the hip opener and kind of just let you soften and kind of realign everything in the body after a practice. Now, if you'd like to make modifications to your bridge pose and take the block up a level, feel free to do so. Or you can remain with the block at the lowest level. If you modify and take the block up to the lowest level, go ahead and press your heels into the floor, lift the hips, and take the block back down to its lowest level. We're going to draw the knees up towards the chest and extend the feet up towards the ceiling. We're going into what is called a supported shoulder stand. And so we're just going to take advantage of this pose. This is a great pose to do at the end of a practice, as it makes it, it's really great for helping the limbs, the lower limbs, because as we've gone on all day, the blood tends to pool in the legs. It's great to prevent varicose veins. So just sliding the legs up towards the ceiling. It's just very rejuvenating. At the same time, it can also be calm. And then when you're ready, release the legs to the ground, lift the hips, slide the block out from underneath, and begin to prepare yourself for Shavasana. So with Shavasana, you can go back to the pose we did at the beginning of practice on the bolster, or you can just take the bolster and slide it underneath your knees. And place a blanket on top of your upper body. And just settle in for a few moments, letting Shavasana seal in our practice. In your next breath, begin to wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, bringing awareness back to your body. Bring the knees to your chest. You'll rock from side to side. And let the knees fall to whichever side serves your practice. And just pause a moment. Using your hands, push yourself up to a seated pose. Let's draw the hands to heart center. Bow our heads. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me this evening. May the rest of the week be filled with opportunities for you to step back, settle in, and just explore all your options for centering yourself. And remember, when love is present, all things are possible. Namaste.